Spaceman, Mike doesn't care about you. He ditched you to go on a vacation with his wife.
He's eating habichuelas.
Today on the Man Space. Welcome to the Man Space Podcast. We're your hosts, Doctors Matt Brown and Rob Porter, and clinical therapist Mike Porter. Welcome, habichuelas. What is that?
That's the Dominican way of saying frijoles, beans.
Oh, now you guys are space beans. Welcome, space beans.
I had a coworker that lived there, and he was like, dude, we got to open like a Latin restaurant. Call it habichuelas. He's like, nobody knows it means beans, so it'll sound really cool.
Dude, I feel like that's half the time all that matters is like, well, it was a cool name.
Yeah.
And
We'll
look at
there.
cool
Get
marketing.
some of the habichuelas, and then they'll be like, oh,
I got
it's
beans.
just beans.
Did I tell you about when I remember, did you ever go eat at, was it Beto's
Mm-hmm.
in Provo?
Yeah. There was several of them, right?
Yeah.
Now it's all rancheritos or something.
Maybe. But everyone's like, dude, get their breakfast burritos. Because in Utah, they call them burritos. In Texas, they're all tacos. There's no such
They're wrapped like a burrito, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like you can buy a breakfast burrito anywhere in Texas. Everything's tacos.
Sonic, that's it.
McDonald's.
True.
But someone's like, well, just make sure you go get their breakfast burritos. They're amazing. I was like, cool, I'll go get some. Even though I was like, I don't care about breakfast burritos, but I was like,
Yeah.
I want to have the experience. So I go to this place
Mm-hmm.
and I said, can I have a breakfast burrito? And they're like, well, what kind do you want? I was like, oh, what are my options? They said it was like egg, bacon, beef. I was like, oh, I'll have the beef.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what's a beef? So I got that. She said bean.
Oh.
So she gave it to me, and it was literally like, it was the fattest burrito I've ever. I was like, who eats this for breakfast? And it was just straight, runny, refried beans.
Yes. Okay, so I didn't get a breakfast one, but I just got the bean burrito.
Well, apparently that's what.
Literally was like
Yeah.
a big gulp size funnel of a tortilla.
And just
It was
as runny.
I could have just drank the beans.
I was serious. It was like falling out. I was like, I mean, it's a good tortilla, but what's the big deal? I never went back.
There was a rumor that apparently was on the news when I was working at a credit union there.
Yeah.
We do lunch runs all the time. Oftentimes you hear about like people spitting in the food when they work there, maybe peeing.
What? I haven't heard the peeing.
Just imagine another bodily fluid.
No.
And apparently that was in the beans. So my coworker, every time people are like, hey, lunch run, where are we going? He's like, anybody want any Beto's beans? No!
There's always that one friend. Dude, I was just sitting here looking at myself in this, as I want to do. I'm like, oh, a picture of me. Do you remember back in like the 90s? Wait, you graduated in what, 2000?
99.
99, okay. You're just 2 years behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in the 90s, it was very like mid 90s, very cool to like wear your hat.
With the bill so curved.
Sometimes so curved it was actually broken. I'd see dudes with a broken bill.
Yeah,
they'd snap it, but it would be so low that it was like, dude, you can literally see nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what it would look like. Yeah.
Do one of these.
And actually, I remember one kid. There was this one couple. They were super attractive. Both of them was like, why are you guys so hot, both of you?
Mm-hmm.
He'd walk around like this. I'm like, just freaking pull your hat up, dude.
It was either curved like that and low, or like untouched and perched on top of your head and low.
That I feel like that the untouched didn't happen to like. I feel like that came right after I graduated. Like it came later.
Yeah.
And not it. That came later to Seattle. But you were in Olympia. So you're in the same place basically. Because I feel like I saw that as like a California / Utah thing.
I feel
like untouched and low.
I feel like the rounded one was more like the hick bill, and the flat tilted down was the gangster bill.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's more what I saw. Unlike sometimes those.
I don't think I ever, because in Arizona before I moved to Seattle, I still had, it was like I wanted my hat curved, and it was like a Stussy hat. Remember Stussy?
Yeah. What was the other one?
Massimo,
Stussy, No Fear.
Oh, Big Johnson.
Yeah.
Structure. Do you remember Structure was like
Yeah.
the class before Abercrombie came in?
Janko.
Janko jeans. They're back, man.
I know.
It's horrible. Like I see people walking around. My daughter wears big old huge jeans. I'm like, okay, cool.
Here it's probably not as bad, but in Washington, you soak up like half the
Yeah.
water that falls from the sky.
Did you?
You have like
It's all in your
water
pants.
wicking from your feet all the way up to your knees.
Did you? Did you see? Did you ever? My friends did this. I never did it. They'd buy pants that were too long. This is before they started making boot cut. I guess I don't know.
Mhm.
But they just cut them up the sides so they just laid on your.
I did that.
Yeah. Did you ever say the word mass?
Oh yeah,
Really?
mass cool.
Yeah, dude. That
Yeah.
was totally. It's like a Seattle only thing. It's the only place I've ever heard anybody saying mass. I moved up from Arizona. I was like, why does everybody keep saying it was mass fun? What does that mean? I had no clue.
I'm trying to remember when it stopped, but yeah,
It feels like to me it stopped like 1996. Like it was gone by the time like 96 rolled. I didn't feel like anybody said it anymore. My junior year it was like done.
I also said wicked, but only because of a sweet sketch on Saturday Night Live, the Valancourt Boys.
I don't think I remember that.
It was like Adam Sandler and I can't remember. I can't remember who the other guy was, but the whole bit was like, "This is going to be mildly offensive."
Awesome.
It was like, never play a prank on a fat kid because they were like, apparently like ordered, Kentucky Fried Chicken to his house,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're like waiting in a tree, watching to see what he did. We're like, get this, fat boy takes the chicken, and a half an hour later, KFC shows back up with a wicked huge tub of mashed potatoes. So that was always the line: wicked huge tub of mashed potatoes.
uh, well, Matt, we would have been friends in high school. If only we would have known.
Well, I guess the only time I was in Kirkland was to go to that sweet Greek place.
Which one?
It was like down at the end of
Oh, I know what you're talking about,
kind of the main
but I don't remember the name
downtown
of it.
drive. I'd never had like legitimate Greek food, and now I'm like, there's so many Greek restaurants where I live that,
Really?
yeah, it's tons of Mediterranean and
Is it
Greek.
good? I love Greek
A
food.
lot of it is good, but it's kind of like, it's not like a rarity or a novelty
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's like
But there, I
McDonald's.
was like, oh my gosh, I can get lamb on this big puffy piece of bread.
Dude, I'm still doing this neural nostalgia thing. Today I was listening to. Did you ever listen to Face to Face?
Yeah,
I was
there was
listening,
like the guys that lived next to me in my first year in college had like all those albums.
yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I remember I bought it, uh, and they had one song called "Disconnected"
Mhm.
that was kind of their most popular song. I think they got played on the radio a little bit.
Mhm.
They kept putting it. They'd re-record it and put it on like every album. Like the
Uh-huh.
next three albums had that on there. It was like, guys, move on. It's not even that good of a song. Yeah. Anyway, I was just trying to think too through my head. My kids and I are still doing our band.
Uh-huh.
It's so funny, dude.
Are you just doing covers still?
Yeah. I want to write, like, I've written a bass line for something. I'm like, who writes a song around bass unless I'm freaking Primus? This song's called Winona's Big Brown Beaver. Remember that? They were such a weird band.
They were.
Didn't he try out?
He tried out for
Tried out for
Metallica. And they're
Metallica,
like,
and
yeah, you're too good.
yeah. You'll steal the show.
Yeah, I saw them live once in. It was actually in
Primus?
Salt Lake. It wasn't like just to go see them. It was like a big festival.
Huh.
But what was that festival called? Endfest was up in Seattle, but there was,
They didn't do an end fest. They had it because they had the end station down in Salt Lake
yeah,
too.
I'm trying to remember what it was called. Dang. Anyway, yeah, Cake played and
Oh.
got like super offended and ended like
They did?
halfway through their first song. Like
Was
people
that-
were throwing stuff up on stage.
I've heard this story before, but not from you.
I think they were
Did
like,
they do this all the time?
maybe they were facing the sun, and so they were just being kind of whiny, like they put us on this stage, and now we have to keep retuning our instruments. But they were just being kind of like
Yeah.
whiny. So I think somebody was like, "I'm done." Just threw like a huge shoe up on stage and hit the lead singer, and he's like, he just did like a motion like this, and they all ran
Wow.
off stage, and that was it. And everybody booed him even more.
Uh,
But it was like I'm trying to remember who else was there. Ben Folds 5 played like right before or after
oh, wow.
Primus, and yeah. Anyway, one of those two stage things.
Ben Folds does a show right now. He's on tour right now doing the Paper Airplane tour,
Mm-hmm.
where he invites the audience members to write down whatever song they want to hear and then throw it on the stage at a paper airplane.
Oh,
And then
nice.
he'll just pick it up and play it.
Whichever plane has the best flight pattern.
Yeah. Which reminds me, I'm going to a concert this weekend with my son. A
Oh,
band that I'm like, meh,
who was it?
hot water music.
Oh, I haven't heard of them.
They were kind of like they're kind of a punk band ish. They came from Gainesville, Florida, the same place Less Than Jake came from. So I've heard them many times, but they picked up a really good second singer, Chris Cresswell. He's from a band called the Flatliners.
Nice.
Anyway, that's all. I'm going to that show. It's kind of like I've been to shows. I'm like, my back's going to hurt.
I know the last. Oh, it wasn't the last one. Maybe it was the last one I went to. I went with a friend. I wasn't really into the band, but it's his favorite band, so
Dude,
I can't even remember the name of the band now.
that's
Mayday Parade, I think.
oh, Winnie likes Mayday Parade.
Yeah,
She did. I don't think she likes them anymore.
yeah. But I was standing there,
Yeah.
and I was like, same thing.
Yeah.
About 20 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, my back hurts.
Yeah, dude.
I'm gonna sit
Especially
down.
especially when it's like I don't know this band, so I can't
Yeah.
sing along. Remember when we went and saw was it like Avenged Sevenfold or something with Dave that was
Mhm.
like, dude, this show is not my jam.
Yeah. Another one where you go for a friend.
Yeah, I saw some weird stuff at that show. Lubbock.
An
Barf.
outdoor Lubbock concert.
Hey, I'm all full of random things now that we turned on the microphones, but do you feel like you hear a lot of Texas accent where you are?
I hear more Louisiana if I hear an accent.
Hmm.
A lot of times it's kind of a muddled Texas accent, but I heard a lot more in Lubbock.
Yeah, so I had a client that they're from a small town in Texas, and I was like, "You don't have any accent," and she's like, "No." She goes, "I don't feel like." I feel like the accent's just an East Texas thing. I was like, "No, go to Lubbock. They have a very definite Lady Raider basketball." I used to hate those commercials. The affordable. All right, I'm just getting hot in here. We have a topic today, and because Mike is missing, he's in. I can tell you this now because no one's going to go chase him down. By the time you guys hear this, he'll be back, so you can't go stalk him. He's in the Dominican Republic, as Matt pointed out. I was going to, oh, my phone's up there. I was going to look it up on my phone. He sent me a picture of when he went and got, he called them Dominican hamburgers.
Oh, that's where he was? I thought, yeah, when you said where he was, I thought he was here.
No,
Like it was a chain from here, right?
he took a picture of us saying, "Hey, I can see you guys are at lunch right now. What a burger!" Because we share our locations with each other. But his thing was like just it was like, I want to go there. It was like this white sand beach and, like palm fronds roof. And he's sitting there eating a hamburger. I was like, oh.
Now I'm curious because I know it's basically right off the coast of Florida. And it's like, yeah, Haiti and DR.
Yeah,
all on the same
they
island,
half and
then
half.
Cuba right to the west.
Yeah, and Puerto Rico right to the east.
Yeah.
Which, it's always funny to me, Mike. So we own Puerto Rico, but we don't own the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I don't remember the story with, because we were there a couple of years ago in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico?
Uh,
Would you recommend it?
oh, yeah. It's nice.
Really?
Mhm.
But you speak Spanish. How much Spanish do I have
I
to
don't
know?
think you need to speak the
Mike
Spanish.
said where he is, he feels like you'd need Spanish to really get by. And I speak Tagalog.
No, like Puerto Rico, you don't need Spanish at all.
Puerto Rico.
And we were on a really small, it's not the smallest island, but it's a smaller island, not the main island.
Oh.
So we stayed on the main island like one night and then went onto the smaller island the rest of the trip. So, and even there, like
I didn't know
I
there's
could have gotten by with English just fine, but I wanted to speak Spanish. But it's hard because like depending on where you learned Spanish,
uh-huh.
like there's just enough difference place to place that
Yeah.
sometimes it's like really hard to,
Yeah.
like, if I remember right, in Puerto Rico they leave like the S's off at the end of a word,
Oh, really?
and yeah, so it's kind of like you have to really be. I really have to be listening carefully to.
Kind of like the theta
Yeah,
in
I remember the first time I heard that, and I was like, "What?
yeah.
Does this person have a lisp? What is going on?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you made fun of him, you jerk. I was just looking up because I was like, I don't know, Puerto Rico had little islands. So here's a question for you. Oh, I know when yours was. I was gonna say, when was the last time you went on like a vacation with your wife? Only your wife.
A vacation?
Mama, what's vacation? That's where you leave and never come back.
A
Yeah,
vacation,
vacation.
that was it. I mean, we've done like an overnighter. We've done
No,
like
yeah. Give
we've done
me,
like trips like
how long have you done? What's the longest you've done?
that one. That was
That was when you went. Oh, that was just like a year, 2 years ago, year and a half ago.
yeah, it was like February 22.
Okay, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And you went for a week.
I think it was a full week.
Seems like it was.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about it. And your parents came down to watch your kids.
My sister. Yeah.
Mike, this one for Mike. I don't know if this is Mike's longest, but this is about a week. They left on
Mhm.
Sunday, Monday, comes back on Friday. So,
Yeah.
I think my longest was only like, shoot, 2 days, 3 days.
So there's
Man.
length and then there's frequency, right? Because I don't know if you do it more frequently. Like
No, we do not.
I was going to say before that, I think the last time we did anything like that was like 2000, like late 2000, like summer of 2006, maybe, where we actually took a
Oh,
trip, just the
really?
two of us. Yeah. But it was like a trip within like a vacation within a trip. So like we went to see family and then we
Yeah.
went and like hiked and um, camped and went to the coast and things like that. But
But you didn't have kids yet. Oh, you
we
did have
had
kids.
one.
We had one.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
Yours is older than mine.
but yeah, outside of that, I think that's it. That's like again, we've done like an overnight or
Yeah.
something. But
I don't have
but I
like,
suck in this department because I know that's what we're going to talk about and the importance of it, right?
indeed.
And I think again, I think a big part of it has to do with how close are you to family or people that can help with the kids.
Yeah.
But it's massively transformative. I think when you can pull it off.
Ooh, that's big
So
words.
Mike, you better come back saying
I'm a new man.
this changed my life. I don't know when their last time was.
I honestly like when he was here, we would do swaps with them, but it was usually only overnight.
Hmm.
Like we'd take their kids,
Yeah.
and that was the like I can think in my relationship we have had. I can think of three quote unquote big ones, and big ones again was like I did a I did a presentation at Smart Marriages conferences in Orlando
Hmm.
when where Steve was balancing a marker on his head. He didn't do it in the conference. I told the story. He's like, Rob, don't tell that story. He's like, it's perfect, Steve. But there's that one, and then and that one I think was like 2 to 3 days.
Hmm.
My cousin, Becky's cousin, watched our kids, and that was Becky's. That was our first time leaving our kids,
It
and
takes
Becky
me
was,
that long to like get into
yeah,
vacation mode.
I know,
Yeah.
and this is I'm thinking about this and thinking this is depressing me, but and I'll explain more about that in a second. The second time uh, was actually not that long ago. We went up to Seattle, probably like it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm.
5 years ago, because when we both turned 40,
Yeah.
and that was still only like 3 days.
Hmm.
And then just recently, we went to Fredericksburg for 2 days, 2 nights.
Hmm.
But because we lived in Alabama and there was nobody anywhere near
Yeah.
us, so we couldn't leave our kids.
Right.
And we lived in Lubbock. There was still not anybody anywhere near us that we were willing to leave our kids with. We could have left it with one family,
Hmm.
but there would have been uh, a weird implied you got this many hours, so we need to get this. It would have been like very exacting.
Yeah.
It was not a good idea. And we were still kind of young enough that Becky, I think, didn't want to leave the kids that long.
Mhm.
But then, so yeah, I think the biggest thing is resources, access to family. But it makes me kind of sad because I'm looking at this and I think, oh, we're hitting the time now where all the things we've been planning to do, we're coming up on those times.
Uh-huh.
Like we have a trip loosely planned to go look at the fall foliage on the East Coast.
Oh, nice.
But I realized it's like, oh crap, the timing of what's going on with our lives, like Becky and school and things like that, is like, oh crap, it's got to happen like this fall. And I don't think I was ready for it because we have another trip planned with our family that I'm like, yeah, is this going to be like a 2 day thing again?
Well, aren't you doing it's not AAMFT anymore, it's Systemic Therapy Conference?
Yeah, I'm not sold on that yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to. I might just do it virtual
Mm-hmm.
because that's in Orlando in November.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very dissatisfying.
Orlando that time of year, I don't know. I went in January once, but it was really cold.
Really?
Yeah, like we were in Universal and like freezing.
Well, the problem is if I went, it would probably just be me. With AMFT, I'm going to have to find out who else is going.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not worth it.
I don't think anybody goes anymore, man.
Spoiler alert to anybody who's wondering, hey, Rob, what are your professional conferences like? The AMFT one is lackluster. It's often I felt like, well, this is my student teaching me something I taught them 6 months ago, but I get a continuing education unit for it.
We just pass it around. They get the grade and degree from me, and I get the CEs from them.
That's what it feels like. You just wanted a publication. So here's what we're talking about in short, because when I'm asking this question, because again, I'm already feeling like I have a few thoughts on this topic, but I saw this a couple times. Some people have the 111 rule, and some people have the 777 rule. I thought the 777 was more realistic.
I didn't hear the 111.
So the 111 rule is that you give me the other parts of it, you dummy. I'd have to remember. I think it's same thing. Like once a week you go on a date, once a month you have a day together, and once a year you go on a vacation. I think that's it. Maybe that's the one I like better because that sounds more realistic to me.
Like
once every 7 months seems a little hard. Because the idea with the 777 is once every 7 days you go on a date. Once every 7 weeks you spend a day together. That's one. Because spending a whole day together once a month, I feel like, that could be hard. I don't know if I could pull off a whole day.
The day together one, I think, is almost harder than the vacation or the date.
Yeah. Yeah, because
unless you just take a day off of work or something. Like, because weekends for most couples.
Oh, yeah. They'll be filled with kids.
Yeah.
So it's usually worked out that I do 1 day every semester with my wife. Mm-hmm. Usually like the first day of school, me and my wife just hang out. Mm-hmm. We always get Taco Bell.
Dude, that's your go-to for anniversaries and first day of school.
We do.
Do you not get Taco Bell at other times of the year?
Pretty much never do.
Like, is it an indulgence that you're excited by? Now or do you really like Taco Bell? Or is it just easy?
We do like Taco Bell. I think it's just a kind of thing that's like, this isn't something we normally do. Uh-huh. We like their stupid Cinnabon Delights. Have you had those?
Like the curly, crunchy deals?
No. They bought Cinnabon.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually like a little cinnamon ball, mm-hmm. but in the middle is the cream.
Okay.
They're freaking good. And then whatever else we get. I don't know. It's just morphed into that. Like that's the only time we do it. I think unintentionally. And we watch a movie and hang out. Like we don't do anything.
Yeah.
But we just spend the day together until 3:00 when they all come home.
Right.
But then like going on a trip, like weekend getaways, I feel like that's all I've ever done. I've never gone on a mini vacation, I guess, unless you count that as, I guess, going to Fredericksburg is a mini vacation.
Yeah.
It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it was fun. Mm-hmm. We stayed in an Airstream.
Nice.
It was funny. Had a little hot tub out front. It was cool. It was on this, I think I've told you guys about it because it was on this, it was on an olive vineyard. Like he made
Oh,
olive
right.
oil.
Yeah.
Didn't even get us a free bottle.
Nice.
No, he
They
didn't.
didn't? Oh,
No. I feel like, dude, that's instant marketing. What are you doing?
yeah.
Anyway, it was a nice place. So before we get into this massively transformational,
Oh,
do you tell your clients to do anything like this?
yeah. Yeah. And especially not like
I
everybody,
don't make it standard practice.
but I do. It is a question I ask. Like, okay, tell me what you guys are like when it's just the two of you away from everything.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, sometimes it's surprising because you might think, based on what they're telling you about how they're getting along, with everything else, you might think that they would feel really awkward or distant or whatever if it was just the two of them. Like
Right.
maybe the rest of the stuff is kind of like serving as a distraction to the disconnection.
Right.
But almost everybody I've asked, I can't think of anybody who hasn't answered it this way. It's like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, we're fine then, but like,
Yeah.
but that doesn't happen very often. And then when they get into it, it's like, oh, yeah, we're like, everything's fine. We don't fight. We don't. But now that I say that, there are some people that go to great lengths to set something like that up and then are really disappointed because they spend the whole time fighting, So,
Yeah.
um, but I do think, yeah, like I've recommended it for several people because it has been one of those things that has been really helpful for them. And like they get to see, oh, yeah, maybe it's not that I don't like you, right?
Uh-huh.
It's the things that are going on and the ways that we're reacting to it and the stress it's putting on us causes us to kind of, turn on each other.
Yeah. That's I mean, most couples I get, periodically I'll have couples who go on vacation during therapy, and then the session afterwards is like pointless
Mm-hmm.
because it's like I forgot how amazing we are.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
see you guys in 2 weeks when it's not amazing anymore. But so, and maybe that's a little poo pooing on the transformative nature of these things. But I wonder first about because I don't mention it very often. I will tell people do those things. They're all very good. But I think there's a mistake in believing if you do these things, your relationship will be repaired.
Yeah. And I guess when I say transformative, I don't mean like that it
Problem solved.
dramatically changes everything when you
Yeah,
come back.
dynamics are still
It's just like,
dynamics.
I think it's more transformative because it's like maybe first and foremost, like the realization that I can be around somebody that I'm committed to
Mm-hmm.
and like not like those parts of me that just always kind of go away when we're doing a life together.
Yeah.
They're still alive, right? And they're like, it's kind of, and I got to experience that with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, I only get to experience that away from you, which could create an association that, like, oh, yeah, every time I'm around you, this important part of me has no place. Because I think sometimes that can happen where people just get like breaks from each other for, you know, maybe it's like a vacation with your friends or maybe it's a work trip or something. And you start to feel like, I never feel this when I'm around my spouse, right? But being able to feel that way when around them, I think it's like a stark reminder that on the one hand, like maybe there's something about the way we're doing life that isn't working,
Uh huh.
and also like a hopeful reminder that like what maybe you feel like is buried too deep is still there.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting form of almost mindfulness. Like just go be in the moment. Like
Mm-hmm.
stop doing all the things that you have to do,
Yeah.
quote unquote have to do. Again, I'm reading that book, Comfort Crisis,
Mm-hmm.
and it really is like, why do we do all the crap? We don't have to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Why do we keep doing it? Like,
Because
why
we're
do?
real dumb.
Yeah, it's like, well, I have to earn this much money so that I can buy my starter home, which always cracks me up. The term starter home is sometimes a little bit like that. Kind of bothers me. It's very,
Like because you should be dissatisfied with it at some
yeah.
point.
It's like, well, I mean, and I understand that. I understand the idea, the way our system is set up. It's like, well, you can't jump into the home you really want
Yeah.
unless you somehow have a whole bunch of money from somewhere. You have to build to that.
Mm-hmm.
But in this book, he talks about the Bhutanese people from
Mm-hmm.
Bhutan and how they're consistently in the world ranked among the happiest people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it said in Bhutan, everybody owns their house.
Mm-hmm.
They're not nice houses like in the US, but everybody owns their house and their house is all back up to like beautiful forests and all, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, but here we're trying to get to the next bigger house so that I can get to the next bigger thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get so caught in that chase and over scheduling our kids and they need to be doing this and this and this, even though it's actually much better in many ways for your kids to have free, unstructured play
Yeah.
to do more. Um, that we kind of lose sight of like why we got married to each other in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that part can be transformative to say, oh, I do remember I like you as a person and I like your personality.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're relaxed, your personality comes back out.
Yeah.
So hopefully it can be more transformative to say now you can like, how do we incorporate some of that vacation? And I've said this with clients, like, well, how do you take this vacation mindset and say, what elements can you incorporate normally?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think, where if you go back to the 777 or the 111 is like, well, you should at least have a day a month. That one's hard for me because I feel like a month. I gotta take a day off of work a month.
The other one's basically every 2 months, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then once a week go on a date. That one I'm not. My wife and I almost never go on formal dates.
Mm-hmm.
Formal dates meaning like we go out,
Mm-hmm.
but we will always, uh, almost always, hang out with each other like on Friday and Saturday night, where we kick our kids away from us. Like, no, go away. We're not hanging out with you.
Yeah.
And we probably just watch a show. Now the hard part is like I recognize in that like yeah, it's kind of the minimal effort in it.
Yeah.
I think what's so significant about this, dude, it's getting hot in here. No, just me. I'm in the hot box corner. Fine, move on.
That was freezing in the Whataburger.
In the Whataburger. Uh, I love we went stupid Whataburger, man. I freaking love that place. Anyway, I think the intention that goes behind like I'm going to do this. I want to spend time with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes a long way. The trips are like a big dramatic version of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny when you say, like, I'm sitting here thinking through when you say it takes me this long to get into vacation mode. I've never pushed past, like I said, I don't think we've ever gone past the 2 days mark.
But you've gone on trips as a family longer than
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I don't know if that.
Uh,
Sometimes on trips with family, I never quite get out of
Me neither, because
the mode.
it's somehow just the nature of how we function, and like it's the role I've taken on is generally the planner of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So vacation mode is like, yeah, sometimes I get there and sometimes it's not there. Like I'm also still thinking, we've talked about Disneyland where it's like
Mm-hmm.
I map everything out. Everyone follows me. I got the backpack on me at all times. Like,
Yeah.
and so it is fun. And I still love it. But like the thing I'm wondering about is these 7 day vacations. It's like, what happens? What parts of me in our relationship come back out once I've kind of really settled into this place?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that part.
Yeah.
Now, this is the part where I'm like, you're depressing me, man. I've only been on a 3 day trip.
Well,
What's wrong with me?
You better plan it.
I feel like such a
Well, you
loser.
should too. I mean, we were gonna take another trip that just keeps getting bumped. It's
Uh-huh.
just like life coming at you
Right.
and other things.
Yeah, there's always something. But then I
Yeah.
think that's what I was sitting here thinking is like I actually thought, oh, we have an opportunity coming up. I think in about a week and a half that we'll be down in San Antonio for something. And I thought, oh, I should just get a hotel and we'll stay overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, I'm probably going to find some reason why that's probably like, it's not really in the budget right now, or we have this thing we have to take care of, or something that's going to ruin it.
Yeah.
And so I probably won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, well, that sucks because it does make it seem like my relationship is the back burner thing. I'll get to it when there's an opportunity to get to it.
Yeah.
And that's these, like I've wondered before, these 777 or the 111, or the people where it's like, we committed to have sex every night for a year.
Uh-huh.
Or, there's something you said that I was like, yeah, that's a similar idea. I don't remember what, I'll get back to it, but because I think what happens if you have to push through the initial like ease of this, and like I'm pushing myself into a different type of setting that requires my brain to be much more intentional on this.
Mm-hmm.
to say I'm going to do this every single week, how do I not get stuck in a routine of like, it's Friday night and we just go get McDonald's,
Well, I mean, some people have
which I don't think is
parameters.
bad, but
No, some people have parameters which are hard to follow. Uh, and I don't. I think sometimes for people, it's a concerning sign that we have nothing to talk about except the kids, except
yeah.
because like we go on a date and all we talk about are the kids, even though we said we weren't going to talk about the kids, but then we can't find anything to talk about. I don't think that that's it. Maybe it is for some couples, but I think for me, it's like because I'm still in like I can't shut off
Mm-hmm.
responsibility mode.
Right.
So like that's just where my mind goes. But I don't feel like I'm pushing through anything on a vacation. I think it just kind of like slowly starts to kind of like fade into the
Uh-huh.
background, and then you're in vacation mode, and then. But I think obviously I could do better at making those transitions. It's a weird thing. It's like if you set down a responsibility and pick up enjoyment
Uh-huh.
for a date, right? And sometimes like explicit activities can help with that. Like we did like this activity. What is it called? Adventure
Dude, I
something.
was going to bring that up because on that episode, you've talked about this before where you like dance with your doors open or whatever.
Yeah, it was real
I know.
awkward, but
But because you and I both committed, I don't remember this, that we were going to do it. It was like that or the sexual one because there's like a sex adventure book.
when did we
And we're
talk
like,
about
we're
this?
going to do it. It was on a podcast like 2 years ago
Well, we
and
got the
neither one of
book.
us did it.
No, we did. We did
Maybe,
some.
I think it
I
was
was
this,
already due. Maybe the.
I think it was the sex adventure one because
Oh
we were
yeah,
like, well, let's try it out. And neither
yeah.
one of us did it. Unless you've
I don't
been
even
doing it and
remember
haven't
that.
said anything.
No, no. We did the adventure one for a while, but both of us felt like it's some of the ideas were like, yeah, okay, we can jump in and do that.
Yeah.
It's pre-planned and it's great, right? Other ones
Right.
were like, you kidding me? I got to go get this ingredient and do this and this, and it's like that's too much work, right? And so, but I think that probably the first mental space you go to when you're trying to set responsibility down
Mm-hmm.
is just like mindlessness. And I think that gets real boring,
Uh-huh.
right? And so the conversation jumps back to like responsibility,
Yeah.
and then maybe you drift again. But it's like you see couples sitting at dinner, and I've done this before too, where it's like you're sitting there and you're both just like staring off into space, and then you bring up, oh yeah, hey, did we do that thing? And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, eat some more chips and salsa and fade out into space. Oh yeah, like you're just going back and forth, but like to jump to that's why I say one of my favorite dates still to this day sounds like super pathetic, but it was like we sat down and did a crossword puzzle and something else, and it was just like something. I guess it scratched the itch of like I'm in that mode where I need to do something, right?
Right.
And so the thing I'm going to introduce is like intentionally just for fun, and then it kind of awakens that part of your brain a bit that's like it's okay to let things down a
Mm-hmm.
bit, and then like trust yourself that when the date's over, you'll be
You'll go
able to
back
pick
to
the
it.
stuff back up, right? I think there's like this weird, if I set it down, like something's going to happen, or am I going to be able to pick it back up, or
Right.
and and I think for some people maybe it's a lot easier to do that. I don't know. For me, it's hard to transition out of that mode because I think for me there's like some safety and security and like just being in more of a productive mode, and I feel like uh, the just spontaneous fun mode, which is what really happened on the that trip to Puerto Rico, was like basically we woke up and it was like the only thing we had to decide was what beach are we going to today,
Yeah.
and there was like five, six, seven, I can't remember, different like amazing beaches that you just drive up to and set up your stuff and just chill all day. And so that's kind of the vacation that we needed. And I think at different times in your relationship, you need maybe different kinds of
Sure.
vacations. But that one, we just needed one where it was like, you're just going to do nothing and relax, right? And there are other times where it's like, I want to go. I think that's why we decided to go there because we had several ideas. We've always wanted to go to Europe, but it's like we're going to go to Europe and then just like run ourselves ragged because we feel like we need to do all these things and
That's
see all these
funny.
things. And I'm like, there will be a time where that will be exactly what we want to do. But right now, we're like super fried, and we just need to sit on a beach and do nothing. And so it was like just like explore mode all the
Uh-huh.
time, right? And like that's a very different mindset than like explore with no agenda
Right.
versus like make sure you see these 5 things today.
It's funny because you talk about going to Europe, and we have a plan to go in like 5 years, basically,
Mm-hmm.
25th anniversary. And so I guess 6 years, but I've said to Becky, it's like, I don't really care about going to see like the big sites
I
there. It's
don't
like,
either, but
I just
yeah,
want to go to some small town and be like, I just want to hang out in the town and be like,
yeah,
what's it like to live here?
mm-hmm.
And then go to some other small town in a different country. And what's
Yeah.
it like to live here? Like, I don't want to go to the places where it's like, I'm standing in line
Mm-hmm.
to see, like, I don't, seeing the Mona
Yeah.
Lisa. I'm like, I don't want to
No,
see the
I don't
Mona
want
Lisa.
to, and that's the hard part, right? Like when I think about Europe, that's exactly what I have said, right? Is I don't want to go to all these other places, but then when you talk to everybody, they're like, "Trust me, you really got to see this thing." And I'm like, "Okay,
I,
well now I'm going to go and be like, I hang out in a small town, but when I come back, am I going to be like, well, we should have seen the thing?"
that's funny because I don't, I've never,
I don't know that I would, but yeah,
I've sometimes seen the thing, like you
yeah,
have to see this. I'm like, okay, I don't think I actually needed to see this.
hmm
Like,
yeah.
I mean, this one, no one's like, you have to see Rushmore. But people have been like, when you saw Rushmore, wasn't like, whoa. I was like, no, I felt
Wasn't
like,
most people I talked to are like, oh, it's kind of small.
well, I always feel like, I mean, it looks exactly like what I've seen in movies.
Yeah,
So I feel good about this. Like, the Eiffel Tower, I'm like, I don't care if I see the Eiffel Tower.
yeah,
I don't even like, so I don't, who knows? Maybe I will feel like, oh, I missed my chance. But I feel like, nah, probably not.
yeah.
My favorite things that I've ever done on trips are usually like I was off in some place where people don't usually go.
Found something cool, and
Yeah, met
yeah,
somebody or, like,
yeah.
but so like I think that as we talk about this, I feel like it's kind of interesting when you say it takes effort. And I think I mentioned before I had somebody I worked with that I can't remember the exactness of this date, like exactly what they did, but it was like they went to the grocery store and, with a budget of this much, go find something in the store, like a Walmart.
This was a date.
Yeah.
No.
They've been married for a while, but go find something that this is what I remember it in my head anyway. Go find something that kind of like represents your childhood to me.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like it's just kind of out of the ordinary. It's something that
Yeah,
requires me to get to know you in a way that I wouldn't get to know you. Like I didn't know you loved My Little Pony or whatever the
yeah.
thing is. Like,
That's funny, dude. The other day I had a when was that? Anyway, I had like a wild cherry Pepsi,
yeah,
and it like instantly transported me back to the dankness of like my corner store growing up. It's like it tastes like the smell of the corner store.
that's what I mean. Like I think stuff like that is kind of cool, and to share that with like your spouse, your
Mhm,
partner. I feel like, but I do think you're right. I think we want to just slip into like I don't want to do anything.
mhm.
And I think sometimes it's fine, but when it's just little dates, I do think it requires like effort to say, I want to make effort to make sure that it's our relationship is a big deal to me.
Uh-huh.
Because when I don't, it's just like, I don't know, where do you want to go eat tonight?
Yeah.
And it turns into like instead of deciding like, hey, I'm going to take you on a date to do all my favorite things.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
not that way it doesn't have to be like, oh, well, I planned a really romantic date. It's just saying, I wanted to take you to do my favorite stuff.
I do think there's something to like doing that with some regularity,
Yeah.
but also not putting that
I,
pressure on.
right. Every single time.
Like I
I
think
agree.
like the habit
Right.
of a date is really critical,
I
and then
agree.
like because we've had to like there have been times where we just haven't had a date in forever, and then more recently we've been pretty consistent, um, and had to navigate some things that like just kind of happened last minute that made it so that we couldn't, and we could just kind of got creative. But it was like I think just like the dedication to say this is important and we're gonna
Right.
make it happen in some way somehow, right, on a
Right.
regular basis. Um, Probably helps to kind of get into a space where some of those bigger things are more possible. Like if because I've had couples where it's like they're trying to implement it, but then they start with like, we got to go on a date, and it's got to be something other than
Mm-hmm.
dinner and a movie, or like we can't do those, right? And it's like, well, maybe just start with that, because at least you're hanging out with each other, right?
Right.
Like, or just go to this, like the store together, like build from there, but like start at an easy place.
Yeah. That's, I agree. And I think, um, I don't mean to say that every date should be
No,
that
no, I
way.
know you're not saying that,
And
but
even
yeah.
like these day dates, like I said, our day dates that I mean, like a day date. Our day dates are, for most people, it's like you watched a movie and ate Taco Bell. It's like, yeah, it's really fun. I really like doing it. Um, but even like for me, and maybe this is just me thinking, sometimes I probably need to put a little more effort in. What's interesting as I think about this is I know, and this is something for the spacemen. I mean, the space beans. What was it ajibuelas?
Almost habichuelas.
Habichuelas. Um, space beans. uh, Something to keep in mind is that if you start to do this inside a relationship, one of you will probably become the person who's like, you're the one in charge of planning these things or remembering.
Mm-hmm.
That's not entirely true. I know some couples where they're really good about talking about it and saying, let's take turns.
Yeah.
But usually it's like one person kind of ends up by default being the thinker of it,
Mm-hmm.
like remembering, or the planner. That's not a bad thing. I guess I'm saying that because it's like, hey, if you're the planner, fine. If you don't want to plan it, just say, hey, will you plan a date this weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't make things a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not like, why am I always the one who has to plan this? It's like, just ask him to.
Mm-hmm.
You're always the one because that's how it worked out. And now you're always the one. It's just the way the brains work inside of relationships.
Yeah.
So it's your thing now.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they got something else going on. But it makes me think, I like the going out thing. I feel like I need to be a little bit better about that. Not, it's kind of funny because my wife and I are both very similar. Neither one of us are like, let's go out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let's just hang out here.
Uh-huh.
And we're totally fine with it. And I'm probably more likely to say we should go out and do something
Mm-hmm.
than she is. But I do think even if we're both kind of the person who says, let's just stay here and do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
I think it matters that every once in a while in your
You go out.
that you go out and do something
Yeah.
just different. Like you went and tried some restaurant that you're like, I don't really like that place. Or who knows? I don't care.
Yeah.
You go to Beto's and you get the bean burrito that's questionable apparently. Because I don't know. Now I want to try this. Well, I want to try two things. I want to recommit to this. What is it, the activity book?
It's the couple adventure book. There's a
Yeah.
family adventure book, but I
Then
don't remember the other one we talked about.
the other one is a sexual adventure book.
Like by the same company?
I think, yeah, multiple companies make these things where it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, bake bread wearing only aprons
Wow.
and then see where it goes. It's a little bit like couples do. You've seen like the sexy dice where it's like
Yeah, you roll.
you
Yeah.
roll the dice and it says like touch this or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. But it's things like this that people ask me about that I'm like, I'm not good about because I focus so much on dynamics between people and couples therapy that I'm not good about mentioning, here's some good books to read
Yeah.
or here's some activities to go do just because it keeps your brain focused on the relationship. Because I don't expect you to start going home and talking about circular causality with each other.
Yeah.
That's my job. But I need to sprinkle in some of those things. And I need to find things that I feel like that was kind of cool or effective.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think about your dancing with the car doors open, and I think, yeah, that one feels awkward to me. But maybe I need to push
You were
myself.
supposed to do it in a parking lot. And
Yeah,
we're like,
you did it on the
we're
side of
just
the
gonna
street or
go do it on
something.
the beach. Then a cop came up
That's
and was
what
like, what are you doing?
I.
Sorry, we're trying to do this date thing. And then he left us alone. But
That's what I feel like. Maybe sometimes, and this is sometimes I tell couples we've mentioned on the podcast before that I want them to go on a first date.
mm-hmm.
So they have to go and the one has to ask the other one out and they have to go and leave the house to pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're not allowed to talk about kids. They have to ask, get to know you questions like, what is it, Arthur Aaron?
Yeah.
Like
mm-hmm.
those kinds of questions or dreams and hopes and whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the night, you have to have a door scene. Like I will tell them it's the first date and you are.
And then sneak in through the window later.
Yeah. Then you break in. Because I think it's okay to push into awkward to say, well, it's fine. We're committed to
Yeah.
each other. What's going to be? So it's awkward. We'll talk about it later. Why it was awkward.
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have, not everything has to be catastrophic where it's like, why did that happen? Why did we
Yeah.
fight? Well, because you were in a bad mood.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I guess we've talked this through, have
Yeah,
we?
and we're at 50% uploaded.
Gosh, stupid Mike. I blame him for having fast internet. Mike, come back to us. And spacemen, come back next time and see what new nickname we give you on the man space. Let's be alone together.